you have it.
It's pretty self-explanatory. So that's
How did you decide on this instrumentation?
well,
Question.
we knew we wanted to start with the piano, I think, and
He has
kind of
these
wanted.
things.
Yeah, I have these things helped.
I have these things.
Kind of we're trying to go for kind of on the more sound, less musical side.
What's the audio, the interview?
Oh, it's from BBC's The Conversation. It has two people who talk back and forth. I cut out the mediator, some British woman. And it's two women. One is a younger woman who works on search and rescue in Mediterranean. The other one's either a nurse or a doctor in Syria.
You know, it really threw me for a loop, the piano intro, because it was like, it seemed like a whole different piece. And it was very shocking. It would really, when it clicked in, because it sounded, I mean, when we first began, it just seemed very kind of melodramatic, funny, when we started it off. So that was I'm still processing that. That was great. I mean, so it was really, we got attention, you got our attention.
I really, really enjoyed that you started with such a sense of playfulness. That's what I got from you too. I don't know if that's just your personalities, but I really enjoyed that because it seemed like you were having fun. And then it might have shifted later when you were playing the recording. I was wondering, what were you going for at the end with the disco thing? Because I got a couple.
I'd like to hear
Conflicting.
your thoughts, maybe.
Huh?
I'd like to hear your thoughts, maybe. But
I felt a couple things. I felt like, okay, this is ironic, this is supposed to be funny, or this is supposed to be really serious and arty. But I also felt that maybe you guys were a little nervous to be doing it. So I felt all those things. And I was wondering what you were going for.
Why not both, I guess? Arty and
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have both. I mean, the turtlenecks.
Yeah, I think, and then I think I really, really wanted a pause at the end when it transitioned from you guys singing and you playing the saw to just the recording. I felt that there needed to be a theatrical shift or something, or a change in your expression. I felt like it was just from playing the saw and singing to just the recording happening at the end. It felt like it was just such a sharp transition, and I wasn't ready for it as an audience member.
Maybe a horn.
Or just a moment to take in what just happened, and then move on to the next thing. I don't know.
How did you choose the audio?
I was just driving home and I heard it and just found it very interesting. And we had worked on, actually Adam's been along with my crazy schemes since 5th grade, but we had made something similar where there was somebody was talking about losing his wife to a bear, but it wasn't really explicit, and we kind of just did the sound collage over that. And so I kind of wanted to go, I liked how that turned out, and I kind of wanted to do that again. I didn't want to, I knew it was, even, the other one was kind of sad in nature, but this one had, much more severity to it. So I didn't want to disrespect it. But it's very difficult what we're doing and having fun still. But that's also sort of the point.
Can I tag on that?
Yeah.
Because it was, she had a rhythm to her voice, and she just kept talking, there was no stops and breaks. And did that play into, or was it just what she was saying? Because for me, that constant talking and sort of the same range was really intriguing. To me, that was a part of what drew me in. Did that have anything to do with it?
Maybe subconsciously.
Yeah, I didn't quite, now that you mention it, yeah, I agree that she does have a kind of a rhythmic
I
quality
don't know
in
if
that.
you.
Yeah, I didn't think.
There was
of it.
another woman. I don't know if you heard her as much.
Very rhythmic.
There was a younger woman, and then the other one had, I'd say, worse stories. There was.
So it was just the stories that drew you.
It was the stories, but I mean, like, it also, we were kind of making noise over it.
Well, yeah, so it was a really good backdrop, something to improvise over because of that consistency. So I was wondering if that played.
I think like going off of that, like further on, like after getting past the initial, like, okay, there's a recording playing, like I think because of that rhythmicness, like you didn't even really notice that it was going on after. Like you knew it was there, but like I wasn't really like hearing the words anymore.
Like a TV on in the other room, or
Yeah, or something.
Yeah, I really like the piece a lot, and I would love to see what happens with it. Did you consider the fact that there's two women's voices and then two men making a lot of noise over it? Was that a part of the development of it? That's something that struck me.
Well, I
There's a
mean-
right or wrong answer. I'm just wondering if it came up.
the fact that we were guys didn't come up, because, we couldn't do anything about that, but at least not very easily.
You can think about it.
But, I mean,
You can always think about it.
yeah.
Uh,
The fact that there was just a lot of noise, either be it our voices or our instruments, that was intentional.
I'm curious, you said it's all really self-explanatory. I really like that, because sometimes I do feel that way about performances or music that's difficult, almost by definition, is that I feel like sometimes to the artist, it is totally self-explanatory, and sometimes like it is not all. And like you are still sort of like discovering the piece every time you play it, or every time you sort of revisit it. Is it to you self-explanatory, or is it something that's still revealing itself?
I find it to be, as we did it more and more, like I found more out of what we were doing. So there's maybe some inkling of thoughts of like, oh, it's kind of a theme going on here, but each time we practiced it, I feel like more of a narrative came out of it for me.
Actually, I really liked the vocal part at the end, because I thought it was a really good, sort of almost like combination of all the other sounds that are going on. You get the alarm lash from the keyboard, and like, I think the other thing about it too is that like, I almost like the abrupt transition, because the vocals were good enough that it kind of made you feel comfortable at home again. So there's some sort of place there. It's like everything in the music itself, like, it's almost like this very startling start, but then once it goes into it, you feel it very at home, and it's like, it kind of almost, in a way, it's like, yeah, we're gonna scare you again, but you're gonna bring you back home at the same time. I really appreciated that.
Jed?
What was the title of the piece?
Learning to swim.
Which was next at the end.
Yeah.
The title helped bring our attention to that one too. Yeah, something to say.
What is the meaning of your piece? What is the deeper message? Is there one?
I mean, I don't want to change anyone else's thoughts. I guess I'd like to hear what your meaning is more.
To me, it spoke of the noise of society. I mean, that's probably a very broad conclusion that I came to, but we're surrounded by this noise and everybody's doing kind of a different thing at the same time. There's a struggle, there's melody, there's disco, there's all these things that are just happening at the same time. So that's the conclusion I came to.
Yeah, I feel like that's a safe conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what as Noah mentioned, I didn't really know what the point was or how to explain it at first, but later as we've done it more, I think it's that, and also the sample part was, something very serious and very different than what we're dealing with here, but it's still going on.
Yeah, there's a
We're
very big
just screaming over it.
juxtaposition between like what they're dealing with and what's going on right now.
I'm just an NPR junkie, and I frequently cooking with news on about refugees fighting for their lives to make it safely across Europe. As the water runs, and my daughter tells me that the giraffe needs to use the potty.
Right.
So when you said the piece was self-explanatory, I was like, yeah, this is my life right here. I mean, just somehow the noise of all of the everyday things and news, which is often really disturbing and serious, just all coming at us at once and in fragments, and the news comes on and then the music comes on, and it doesn't make any sense at all, except that somehow the most disturbing and the funniest things have in common that they're absurd. War is absurd, and the giraffe in the potty is absurd, and the ukulele is absurd, and you brought that thread together and made it make sense for us. And
Yeah, I find there's like a sadness in it because we are all complicit in their suffering in one way or another. And like, but there's also like, what else? What are we to do? When, I feel oftentimes like very helpless and like, short of giving up everything I enjoy doing and holding a picket sign and protesting something, and I'm not even sure what I'll be protesting. Like, what am I to do? And yet, as a democracy, we're all responsible for the things that we do overseas.
I just wanted to add, I like the bow saw and the wailing. I think helped us feel as there that sadness that was coming out, because you don't often hear people make that sound. It's kind of like the wailing lull, especially men making a wailing sound. And I thought that was really interesting. And then how you held hands at the end. Like, we gotta do this together.
Gotta go to the disco.
It surprised me. Well, I mean, I didn't think it was a little piece, but it was surprising, but it brought us back together. It was good.
Something that really resonated with me, as you mentioned, and to build off your comment, was this idea of human voices coming in over other human voices. And I guess I would just want to know kind of what informed the sounds that you were choosing to make with your body. And I would maybe encourage you to go even further with that, kind of exploring the range of what your body and what your voice can produce.
Yeah, I mean, each rehearsal something new came out, and sometimes it got really guttural, and sometimes it was like more like choppy, and it was almost like birds yelling at each other. But yeah.
And you've done it since 5th grade?
This specific piece, yes.
I mean, working together, but
one sort of shenanigan or another.
Right, yeah.
That's devious, that's great. That's great. I can only imagine.
It's so interesting that you hear all the comments, because it changes the way, in retrospect, now that I'm hearing the piece. But I want to go back to one of the first comments about how the piano introduction seemed so distant from the rest of it. And now thinking about voices over human voices, one of the things that was arresting about the beginning was that you had the clarinet, but you weren't playing the clarinet, and there was this tension in the room. When the hell is he going to play the clarinet? And I was amazed by how strong that could be. Just like the visualness of it.
I felt that during
You
practice.
just don't often see that in, I was just amazed the kind of tension that
Kept
could.
getting set up for the
Yeah.
And then walking around and the breathing and the da-da, like,
And you guys would like make eye contact, like.
Yeah.
I was so ready for it to happen. So then, thinking about how voices could go over voices, it's interesting to think that you deliberately waited so long to be over another person's voice by waiting and then have it all gush forward